What do you like to do?
What do I like to do? I like to watch anime. It's animated. It's like cartoons, I guess you could say, but it's Japanese. Would play video games. We actually just got like a virtual reality. I mean, we would use like glitches or something like that when we would play on the PC.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to do the whole Twitch streaming thing. Me and my brother were actually like gun enthusiasts.
So when you left your house, everybody was fine.
You don't show the remorse that you should for someone who's lost 3 family members?
Did you leave the house with your brother Cody looking like that? Or did you leave the house with your father looking like that? Or your mother?
No parent is without flaws, but they generally try their best. While it is true that neglect and mistreatment often manifest themselves as varying degrees of pain and trauma, each case is unique and devastating in its own way. Today's story, however, is not about neglect or an innocent victim of an unfortunate upbringing. It's quite the opposite. Most parents shower their children with unconditional love, hoping that nurturing them in a warm and supportive environment will mold them into responsible and productive contributors to society. But have you ever wondered what happens when children take advantage of that unwavering love? What if you pour your heart into giving them everything, and it's still not enough? On January 25th, 2019, 31-year-old Cody Amato didn't make it to his job as a nurse anesthetist at Orlando Regional Medical Center in Orlando, Florida. This was highly unusual for the driven medical professional, who usually showed up early. His co-workers were worried, so they reached out to Cody's girlfriend, who also couldn't get in touch with him. After exhausting all other options, they decided to ask the police in nearby Chululota to check on Amato's house, where he lived with his parents and younger brother, Grant. The officers responded quickly, arriving at the Amato household at around 9:20 a.m. They rang the doorbell and knocked, but no one came to answer. After several attempts to get the attention of somebody inside failed, the 2 responding officers resorted to using a knife to pry open a side door and eventually gain entry. What they came across, however, was far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. As they stepped into the house, an unsettling stillness permeated the air, invoking an ominous feeling of dread. Cody Amato was discovered lying in the doorway, clad in his nursing scrubs. His lifeless body bore the consequences of a fatal gunshot wound. Adjacent to him, just 5 feet away, lay a handgun. It was a harrowing sight, but the nightmare was far from over. The next body they came across was in the kitchen. It was that of 59-year-old Chad Amato, Cody's father, having suffered 2 horrific gunshot wounds. Resting upon his right hip was a holster with a handgun tucked inside. As for the third and final victim, 61-year-old Margaret Amato was found in her office. She had been shot once in the head. The murder weapon was never found. There were no indications of any forced entry into the Amato residence, and all of the family's valuable possessions, including entertainment systems, televisions, personal computers, and jewelry, remained untouched. Almost everyone in the Amato family who lived in the house was dead, but there was one family member unaccounted for. Cody's brother, Grant, and his cell phone had been disconnected. After a group of armed police officers tracked him down and confronted him at a local hotel, he agreed to accompany them to the police station and sit down for an interview. Grant wasn't told what the purpose of the interview was, nor was he made aware of his family's demise. He just sat silently in the back of the police car the whole way to the station, and he didn't once bother to ask about what was going on. Once at the station, the truly bizarre sequence of events that led to the deaths of Chad, Margaret, and Cody Amato was finally uncovered. The following police investigation with Grant shed some light on this harrowing family tragedy. The interrogation is being carried out by detectives Daniel Anderson and Eva Marie Multari, both veteran investigators with extensive experience in homicide cases. Their supervisors are watching the interrogation from a separate room, observing Grant's body language and responses while offering guidance to the detectives through text messages. To start off, Detective Anderson seems friendly and approachable, trying to establish rapport with Grant. One method of doing so is by displaying friendliness or providing a compliment to the suspect based on a characteristic that may hold significance to them. This is often done to get the suspect to let their guard down and hopefully reveal more information. Yet, as we'll come to see on this occasion, going overboard with this strategy results in the interrogation quickly veering off its intended course in a manner that is both frustrating and bizarre.
What do you like to do?
What do I like to do? I like to watch anime. It's animated, it's like cartoons, I guess you could say, but it's Japanese. Would play video games. We actually just got like a virtual reality headset thingy for like the computer.
Nevertheless, this footage serves as a valuable lesson on what not to do and say when questioning a murder suspect. To start off, Anderson introduces himself and explains to Grant that he and his female colleague are just here to talk.
My name is Danny Anderson, and I'm a deputy Seminole County Sheriff's Office at Eva. So we just want to talk to you a little bit.
Notice how Grant still doesn't display concern or appear curious at all about why he was brought in for questioning. Considering the number of armed police officers that had swarmed his hotel room earlier this evening.
No.
Knives.
No knives.
Necklace.
No necklace, no.
Most people in Grant's shoes would display some level of anxiety or confusion about the situation. On the contrary, Grant seems strangely nonchalant, almost disinterested in the situation. The interviewing officer then asks Grant about his personal information, such as his occupation, home address, email, and phone number.
Full name?
My full name is Grant Tiernan Amato.
How do you spell Tiernan?
Tiernan.
Your date of birth?
May 20th, 1989.
Okay. Home address?
Home address is 2112 Sultan Circle.
Phone number?
For the home or for...
The home?
Well, I mean, my original cell phone number was 407-687.
It is then that Grant mentions that his original cell number was disconnected by his dad, but doesn't elaborate or give any explanations on why that happened.
So you don't have you haven't moved to another number, just that one's no longer good.
My dad had told me that when he disconnected my service that he also changed my phone number. So I don't know what the new phone number is.
Gotcha.
But I mean, it's probably like you can probably...
A crucial detail to keep in mind for later. Before we continue, it's important to mention a few details about Grant's background. Grant Amato was a 29-year-old nurse who lived with his parents at 2112 Sultan Circle in Chuluota, Florida. His parents, Margaret, 61, and Chad, 59, were happily married with 3 sons. Jason, the oldest, was Margaret's child from her previous relationship, and Chad decided to adopt him when he was just 3 years old. Later on in their marriage, Chad and Margaret would go on to have 2 kids of their own, Cody and Grant. They both worked incredibly hard throughout their lives and achieved great success. Chad was a pharmacist at CVS Health. He had an immense passion for computers and considered himself a self-taught computer expert. Margaret, on the other hand, worked as a senior operations manager at Nuance Transcription Services. The couple had purchased a second home in Tennessee, where they planned to settle down once they retired. After her family, Margaret's greatest passion in life was horses. In her leisure time, she would often be found at Miracle Lane Stables, tending to Lady, an ex-racehorse she rescued in 2009. Margaret was a compassionate, nurturing, and serene individual. Despite the numerous times she was thrown off Lady's back while attempting to train her, Margaret cherished and admired her. Following Lady's passing, Margaret persisted in visiting the stables, providing care for the horses and seeking solace in their presence. The animals had a soothing effect on her, which was especially crucial as the year 2018 progressed and tensions at home escalated. In 2019, the year of our story, Jason had already moved out of the house and was working as a mortgage loan underwriter. As for Grant and Cody, the two brothers shared a strong bond growing up. Not only were they siblings, but they were also inseparable best friends. Both attended Timber Creek High School and were actively involved in the weightlifting team. After graduating, they decided to follow in their parents' footsteps by enrolling in a nursing school with the ultimate goal of specializing as nurse anesthetists. The duo shared dreams of owning matching BMWs and living together in their family home in Chululota, while their parents enjoyed their retirement in Tennessee. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. Grant and Cody successfully completed nursing school and became qualified nurses. While Cody excelled in his nursing career, Grant encountered challenges. As originally intended, they both enrolled in a nurse anesthetist program. Cody passed the course with flying colors, but Grant wasn't so fortunate. Despite this setback, Grant was still able to secure a nursing position at Advent Health Orlando, thanks to his existing nursing degree. From there, things looked to be on the upswing for Grant. He had a promising career and was making a good living as a nurse, although nowhere near the amount his brother made. Then, in June 2018, it was discovered that Grant had improperly administered at least 80 bottles of propofol, a potent sedative, to patients whom he believed were not receiving sufficient pain relief. Propofol is a very powerful narcotic that's usually used for putting patients to sleep following surgery. It gained infamy in 2009 for being one of the drugs administered to Michael Jackson, which led to his untimely demise. Following this infraction, Grant faced termination from the hospital and was subsequently arrested by the Orlando police on charges of grand larceny. But thankfully, he was fortunate enough that the hospital ultimately decided not to pursue legal action, thanks in no small part to his family's efforts, particularly his brother Cody, who fronted the cash for Grant's legal fees. While he did manage to escape the legal consequences of his actions, this event had a profound impact on Grant, further contributing to his already tumultuous relationship with his family and causing him to become increasingly more depressed and isolated from everyone. Around this period, he found himself spending countless hours secluded in his bedroom, glued to his computer screen. His sleep patterns became inverted, with days spent in slumber and nights consumed by endless gaming sessions. Not only did his mental well-being suffer, but his physical health also took a toll. His weight plummeted, and his appearance grew ghostly, marked by dark circles beneath his eyes and a deathly pallor to his skin. Contrary to his real-life persona, Grant painted himself a picture of himself online as a rich bachelor and skilled gamer, boasting about his fancy home and luxury car to his group of online friends. His circle of friends remained blissfully unaware of the harsh reality. No one suspected that Grant was actually a 29-year-old nurse who had recently lost his job, lived with his parents, and drove a modest Honda Accord. It certainly didn't help that after getting arrested and being fired from his nursing job, it was pretty much next to impossible for him to get another job in his field. It didn't matter that the charges were ultimately dropped. The damage to his reputation was already done. This obstacle prompted him to explore Twitch streaming as an alternative to traditional employment. He began streaming long hours, playing games in front of a live audience in hopes of receiving monetary support through tips or channel subscriptions.
Yeah, we started getting into PC games primarily. I haven't turned on my PlayStation in months. I think the only other game that we really played was Fortnite, but then that was starting to get to like...
That's a big deal right now.
Yeah.
The younger
kids are all over it.
And actually, yeah, during the time that I was that I wasn't working as a nurse, I tried to do the whole Twitch streaming thing.
What is that?
I'm
sorry.
No.
Where you have to explain a lot of this to us.
With Twitch, it's you got your mic and then you have your face cam, and then basically people are just watching you play whatever game you're going to say that you're playing.
Okay.
And then they can donate, they can subscribe to you, which then you get like a monthly payment.
Did you have anybody doing that for you?
I had I think I was up to like 30-something subscribers.
And what would you charge them
With subscriptions, there's 4 tiers of it. Tier 1 is just $5. So right when you see that you blank subscribe to it, you get $5. Is
that monthly or just total?
Actually, it's Twitch pays you every 45 days because you're like an independent, self-employed or something.
No, but saying with their account, though, they subscribe to you. Would it be for a 30-day period? Or
Yes.
So every 30 days, they owe you another $5.
If they resubscribe.
Right.
Yeah. So then there was that. Tier 2 was like $10. Tier 3 was $15. Then if somebody tier 4'd, it was $24, I think.
And what does that get you for?
All that the higher tiers do is they give you like more emotes, like little things you can put in chat. So that when you're playing, everybody who's in your room can chat about, what you're doing or, anything random. And then donations can range from 1 cent up to however high a person.
So what were you making off of Twitch a month?
Nothing really significant. It was like...
So you said about 30 people at one time subscribed to you? So a minimum, what?
$150.
$150, and then a few donations. But primarily, I guess, just keeping myself busy.
Right.
Doing something.
That's a lot of money.
At this stage, it would be rather unusual not to acknowledge Grant's remarkable composure. Despite being acutely aware of the loss of almost his entire family, albeit in secret, Grant maintains an uncannily calm demeanor during the interrogation. He talks about his hobbies and delves into intricate details about his interests as if he were being interviewed for a job or speaking to a friend. Fast forwarding, Grant is asked about his relationship with his family, namely his brother and father. It is then that some hints of a turbulent past start to unravel.
Close with your brother, Cody? Let's talk about Cody.
Oh, yeah. Me and Cody...
Who's older, you or him?
He is. I'm the youngest one. I'm 29, he's 31. Okay. My oldest brother, Jason, is 35 or 36 now.
Who lives at home?
All
3 boys live at home?
No. It's just me and Cody, and then Mom and Dad.
Okay. Tell me about Cody.
Cody. Let's see. Me and Cody had the quintessential rough, fighting each other and whatnot when we were younger.
The love-hate,
right.
Typical siblings.
But then I would say, my junior year of high school, we were all on the weightlifting team together. That's where I got to know a lot of, his guy friends. And, we stopped, arguing at that point. And then we all, we decided to go to nursing school together. We decided to go to the nurse anesthesia school together. We did everything together.
Who was the better student?
He was the better student in everything up through nursing school, and then I was actually the better student in nurse anesthesia school. But there was again, kind of like...
Are you guys... Sorry. Are you guys at the same time in the same classes?
Yeah.
So you're the
but not for nursing school, not for nursing school.
No, I mean for the anesthesiology.
Yeah, we sat right next to each other.
So you're in there doing things together, so you got somebody to study with.
Yeah.
Somebody to bounce things off of and work with.
Yeah, and we would do that all the time when we were burning the midnight oil.
But you were better at it.
Yeah, and that was the one time that he actually admitted that I was didactically more competent than him in that field. And then...
Who was better in weightlifting?
He was.
Oh, okay.
He broke a number of school records. I think he was the 129 weight class. I was the 119 weight class. But he was definitely stronger.
When was the last time your dad put his hands on you?
The last time my dad put his hands on me would be, I'd say, kind of the middle of December of 2018.
What happened?
It's because, with all the money that has been getting spent and I guess just the mix of everything that I've been saying just kind of boiling up in him, and the fact that to him, it seemed like I wasn't concerned about it. So, and then plus I wasn't acting like myself with the jovialness and, all that kind of stuff. My father chose to admit me to a depression or an addiction clinic or something like that in Fort Lauderdale called Cornerstone.
When was that?
That was December 22nd.
Okay.
Until I think January 4th.
Did you agree to go?
I didn't, but they said that this was your only
Who said?
My dad.
Okay.
And that was in Fort Lauderdale?
Yes. Yeah.
Did your mom agree with it?
My mom and my brother both agreed, but it was my dad who was like the iron fist, like, this is what's going to happen. Like, you know, he can't...
Why did he say you needed to go? What was his reasoning?
Because with the way that I was acting, he didn't see that I was doing anything for, like, the positive. You know, and a lot of it just came back to money with him. He would like allow me to spend money that he had, like with his credit card or something like that. But it's like then whenever I did, it was like a huge problem.
Okay, so you had one of his credit cards.
Yeah.
It's important to point out that Grant's father fully supported him in his efforts to kickstart his Twitch career, offering him his credit card to help buy streaming equipment and advertising for his channel. But despite racking up charges on his father's credit card, everything didn't quite go as planned. While Grant did manage to gain a small following on Twitch, it was nowhere near enough to sustain the lifestyle he had become accustomed to, especially considering his relatively privileged upbringing. Instead of focusing on work, Grant found himself gradually captivated by the world of webcam models. These women streamed live to an audience that paid for conversation and erotic entertainment. Among them, a Bulgarian performer named Sylvie caught Grant's attention and soon became the object of his obsession. Night after night, Grant would spend hours watching Sylvie's webcam performances, each minute costing him 90 of the website's native tokens currency. Grant would buy thousands of these tokens, spending around $600 each night.
All right, Sylvia, look at me. I'm outside going to check the mail. And I'm asking you if you can please, pretty please, send me one of your videos. I love it so much when you just send them to me. Yeah, I don't like buying your stuff. It makes me feel weird. Could you please send me one though?
He presented himself to her as a rich professional video game streamer. To maintain this facade, Grant lavished Sylvie with money and sent lingerie and toys for her to try on and play with during her online shows. Captivated by the positive response he received from the stunning model when he showered her with gifts and money, Grant eventually convinced himself that he had a genuine romantic connection with Sylvie. This belief only fueled his excessive spending and obsessive behavior.
Okay, so you had one of his credit cards.
Yeah.
And what were you buying with it?
Well, what I was doing is over the past 4 months or something like that, I've been talking to this woman online.
Who is she?
She's as embarrassing as it is. She's a cam model.
And what did she charge? By the minute, by the hour?
Minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how much is it per minute?
Oh God, I think it was like 90 tokens a minute, and it's like the conversion rate for all of that is $600 for like 5,000 or something tokens or something like that. So, and then it was 4 hours a night. So I mean that's basically just where all the costs went to, was you pay real money for the tokens, then you use the company's digital currency for that.
So how much do you think you spent?
Probably close to like $200,000.
Grant burned through $200,000 of his family's money to satisfy his obsession with Sylvie. He lied to his family, telling them all that money was being spent to promote his Twitch channel. Obsessions with online personalities are not uncommon in today's society. Many people, like Grant, often become infatuated with someone they have never met in person and develop an unhealthy obsession with them. If left unchecked, this can rapidly escalate into destructive behavior, such as excessive spending, neglecting responsibilities, and in some cases, violence.
But based on what you're telling me, only so many people make so much money. So I think just a few can make a bunch of money.
Right.
So that was like the ultimate goal, is to get to that.
I was hoping that the stars would align, and then I would be like one of those people, because I was good at the games, and I'm a funny, pleasant person on the camera and that type of thing. So I guess to bring it all back with why I was brought to Cornerstone, it was a mix of all of those things.
As we've already said, this is a lie. Grant's real motivation was his intense infatuation with Sylvie, not his streaming career. He believed that by showering her with gifts and money, he would eventually win her over. Grant couldn't lie forever though, and his family could only tolerate his behavior for so long. Sooner or later, a confrontation was inevitable. Grant Amato did not deserve the support of his family. Despite his months of deceit and theft, they stood by him, even as he continued to lie and steal. Chad, his father, went so far as to take out a second mortgage on their house to cover the debt Grant had accrued. This included the expenses for Grant's legal troubles related to the grand theft charges resulting from his medication theft. Chad eventually discovered that Grant was fraudulently attempting to obtain a line of credit in his, Chad's, name. Rather than reporting it, Chad chose to protect his son from further trouble. In doing so, Chad's paternal instincts, his love for his son, overwhelmed his sense of judgment. This was a grave mistake, one that would have devastating consequences. In December, there was a glimmer of hope in Grant's situation. The aforementioned grand theft charges against him were dropped, providing some measure of relief to his father. Grant, Cody, and another friend then went on a long-awaited trip to Japan, a destination they had dreamed of visiting for many years. Cody generously covered all expenses for both himself and Grant, amounting to almost $10,000. But any hope of better days was short-lived. Upon Grant's return, he swiftly reverted back to his old ways. His persistent lack of employment and swooning over Sylvia became sources of daily conflict between him and his father. On December 19, 2018, Grant stormed out of the house after a particularly intense argument with Chad. He texted his mother, telling her he felt tired of everything and wanted to handle it his own way. Concerned for her son's well-being, Margaret promptly reported Grant as missing to the police, telling the officers that Grant was struggling with depression and felt worthless. But as it turned out, Grant's coping mechanism wasn't to wallow in self-pity, but to simply find someplace else where he could continue to do exactly what he had been doing. He had driven to his aunt Donna Amato's house in Apopka, Florida, approximately 42 miles west of Chululota. Upon arrival, Donna noticed Grant's gaunt appearance and evident fatigue. Of course, she welcomed him in, glad he had come to visit. Throughout his stay, Grant spent his days asleep and his nights awake and online. During this time, Donna began noticing suspicious charges on her bank account were popping up. The charges came from none other than the Cam Girls website, where Grant had been interacting with Sylvie. Alarmed by this revelation, Donna promptly contacted Chad to inform him of his son's activities. Chad begged her not to press charges. Cody also talked to Donna, promising to pay her back all the money Grant had stolen from her. Donna was totally confused, and just when she thought things couldn't get any weirder, Chad Amato completely broke down on the phone. He told her about all the trouble Grant had been causing them lately and how much they had to shell out to clear his debts. Later, Donna had this to say to the detectives. "He told me on the phone, 'Yeah, I'm going to have to work for a few more years than I thought I'd have to, but it's okay. I'll do it for Grant. I don't want him to go to jail.'"
I spoke to the therapist and psychiatrist and all that stuff. I didn't need any medications for anything. They had analyzed it as, this is an isolated event. You've been out of work, you have this PTSD from the whole getting arrested thing, and I mean, the last thing on my record was, I think, a speeding ticket back when I was at UCF. And then, just having all of that stuff going on, but then they had signed me up, I think, to be there for 60 days, but then I was only there until January 4th, so.
Who paid for that?
My brother, Cody.
On December 22, 2018, Chad, Margaret, Jason, and Cody decided to have a serious talk with Grant. They went over to Donna's place and told Grant that he needed to seek help. They then drove him to a rehab center in Fort Lauderdale, where he was to undergo a 60-day program to address his issues with addiction. Cody had promised to cover the full cost of the treatment program. However, on January 4th, 2019, Grant left the program after about 2 weeks, claiming the doctors told him he was fine and didn't need any more treatment. Was he telling the truth? Considering his history of lying and manipulation, it's hard to say for sure. Overall, however, you didn't have to be a doctor to tell that Grant still had a long way to go on his recovery journey.
After you got back
On the 15th of December.
You got back. I thought you said you went on the 22nd of
Right.
December.
Yeah, that's when I went to. Yeah, it was after Japan.
Okay.
And it was because when I had gotten back, my mom and dad were, dealing with a lot of the financial stuff while we were up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got back, that's where my dad started to get really kind of overbearing. And I mean, rightfully so. I know what I did. But it's like with him, it was every single day, hours a day, hours a day. He'd come home from work, and then he would just talk to me just about the same exact thing over and over and over and over and over again. And
did it get heated?
He would get heated, but
How about you? Did you get heated?
No, I mean, I was always the person in the family where, like, my brother Cody would interrupt my dad when he was talking. My mom would interject and say, you can't be saying that or whatever. But for me, I would just sit there and I would just let my dad talk so that he could say everything that he wanted to say. And then if I saw that it was something that he wanted me to respond to, then I'd respond. But I would never be heated to him,
Sure.
especially if I felt like I was in the wrong.
Right. Through all this, you think you were in the wrong?
I mean, yeah.
To some extent?
To some extent, spending that amount of money, it's idiotic to do that, especially when you're not making
So $200,000.
Right.
When was the last time that you and your dad did have, a heated conversation?
It would be Thursday. Because one of his rules was that I wasn't allowed to talk to the woman anymore that I had been talking to. But I guess you could say behind the scenes, my mom would let me talk to her through her cell phone using Twitter. And, she would tell me, like, look, you have to keep it just basic, because if you say anything or if you entice anything or do anything like that, it might lead her to say something to, like, my dad or something like that.
While Grant was in rehab, Chad managed to get on his computer and reach out to Sylvie, letting her know the truth about Grant, that he was unemployed, living with his parents, and stealing from them just so he could buy her gifts and talk to her. Sylvie, upon finding out, seemed to have lost interest in communicating with Grant. Grant claims that Chad and Cody wiped his computer clean and set a password on it so he couldn't access it when he got back home.
He had apparently found out that I was speaking to her again. And when I came back on the 4th, my mom picked me up from the Cornerstone place. And then me and my mom met my dad at California Pizza Grill or Kitchen in Waterford Lakes. And he had this list, front and back, on a piece of paper of all the rules. This is what's going to happen. This is why I'm acting the way that I'm going to act. I'm not going to be Dad anymore. I'm going to be Chad. And I basically told him that I'm going to be present. I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to start to try and get jobs now. I told him what my plan was. It wasn't really my intention to continue talking to this woman, but it just kind of happened. And then because there was like that emotional connection, I guess you could say, between her and me, like I it felt like a relationship. I didn't want to just stop cold turkey on it.
The day after leaving rehab, Chad took Grant to the California Pizza Kitchen in Waterford Lakes for some lunch and a chat. At the restaurant, Chad pulled out a handwritten list of rules from his pocket that Grant had to follow if he wanted to keep living at home. According to the rules, Grant had to cut back on staying up all night online and find a job. His parents wouldn't cover his phone bill anymore. They canceled his old plan and set him up with a new one that doesn't have data. He also had to repay any debts to the family and go back to therapy.
Unhappy.
Right, and one of the stipulations was that he told me at the dinner was, if you speak to this woman again, you're out of the house. I'm kicking you out. You can pack up your and then you're off my property. And then, because of the way that he used to be, he had told me that basically if that happens, that if I ever step back onto his property, that he would kill me. So, you know, on Thursday, that all happened.
Notice how he tries to position himself as the victim in this situation, claiming that his dad threatened to hurt him. But it's clear from the phone call with Donna and everything we've heard and seen that Chad was far from the type of father to wish harm upon his own child. In fact, Chad was doing everything in his power to help Grant get back on the right track and only trying to set boundaries for his own son's well-being. It's also worth mentioning that it had been well over an hour into this interrogation, yet Grant still doesn't seem too concerned with what's happening or why he was brought here. In the end, Grant goes on to recount how he was told by Chad that he was not allowed unmonitored access to the internet, could not have a smartphone, and was forbidden from contacting Sylvie. If he got caught violating any of these rules, Grant will be kicked out of the house right away. Needless to say, Grant was not happy with this new arrangement, but he had no choice. If he did not agree to those terms, he had a grand total of 2 options: become homeless and live on his own, or join the military. But instead of stepping up and vowing to do better, Grant opted to try and circumvent these rules by taking advantage of his mother's kindness. As Grant put it, he managed to persuade his mother to lend him her phone so that he could get in touch with Sylvie. This was a fool's gambit destined to fail, and when Chad eventually found out about this, you can imagine his reaction. Chad was furious. Upon learning of what his son's been up to, he followed through on his threat and ordered Grant out.
I was getting all my stuff together. I was piecemealing it out to the car, and then, you know, I had an interview on Friday, so I had to get my suit out to my car. I was trying to just get all of my necessities as best as I could from, you know, a lifetime of living inside the house. Sure. And then, my brother was working that night, and I think he was working like one of his long nights, but he ended up getting off early. And then I had met with my brother before he came home, just like in the neighborhood area. And then it was just on the like the back side of the house, like along, I don't remember what that road's called, but it's like you take the bend where it has those 2 blinking lights, and then it's just down that road a ways.
Not for Christmas.
Is it before Christmas when you still turn the corner?
I think so. I'm not
Maybe.
sure. I think so.
Well, it was just down that road.
Okay.
And then I basically brought him up to speed, and he had told me that he was going to do whatever.
What time was that, you think?
God, what time was that?
What time did you go to? Let me back up a second. I apologize. You, Mom, and Dad go to California Pizza Kitchen in Waterford at what time?
Oh, that was all the way back on January 4th.
Oh, you said Thursday.
Oh, that wasn't Thursday.
No. That was when I had come back from Cornerstone,
Gotcha.
and he was giving me the rules.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
then do Thursday then. We'll
what
check
happened?
with that.
That Thursday that you meet with Cody down the street. This is this past Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about that.
After you and your dad argue.
After me and my dad had argued, and he had told me, you know, this is how it's going to be, and you know, all that stuff.
Okay. This is at the house this past Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is what now? Saturday?
Saturday.
So
Yeah.
past Thursday, I guess you could still say it. So then I spoke with Cody. He told me about all that. He had given me his debit so that, because I don't have any money and I don't know where to go. You know, I'd never been out of the house on my own. And then the last thing that I was told was just that, you know, basically once again that he'll take care of it because
This is Cody.
This is Cody.
What time is this approximately?
I'd say a little after 10:30ish at night.
Thursday night.
Thursday night.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so then after that, I just like stayed in that in the vicinity area
Mhm.
for a number of hours, and then I had remembered over some of the nights when I would work overnight, but then I'd be able to get off early,
Mhm.
that the Publix on 50 on Colonial, the one that's by the Tractor Supply.
419. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That Publix, it's like their guest Wi-Fi is always still active even when the store closes down. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go there because I have my Surface, and I can, check on my emails. I had to pull up the address to my interview because I don't have GPS.
Mhm.
So then I would write all that stuff down, and then I was basically just waiting in that parking lot until I had to leave to go to the interview. And then, that was the last, because again, it's no cell phone service. Email was literally my only form of communication. And then, I didn't have any, I went to the DoubleTree because I was I can't just stay in my car again all night.
Right. And how did you pay for that?
I paid for it with my debit card.
With your debit card?
Yeah. Because I think there was the $400 or $300 and something still left on it.
Okay.
What time did you get there?
The DoubleTree? I think I got there at around 3 or 4 p.m.
Yesterday.
Friday. And then, and then I was just, I would go up to my car so I get a bottle of water or something like that, or if I'd forgotten something, just necessity-wise. And then I was just there the whole night.
Talk to Cody, talk to Mom, talk to Dad?
No, I couldn't talk to anybody because I didn't have...
But you had the phone in the room.
Oh, yeah, I did have the phone in the room.
If it's not obvious already, Grant is trying to distance himself from what happened to his family by building an alibi for himself, claiming he'd been away waiting for a job interview and that he met up and talked to Cody after getting kicked out, with Cody generously handing him his debit card. Notice how he mentions Cody told him he was going to take care of it, indirectly alluding to his brother having some sort of involvement in what happened to his family. But what Grant doesn't know is that the detectives had already been to the crime scene and even questioned some of the family neighbors and close friends. They knew exactly at what time Grant left the house, who was in the house when he left, and why Cody came back from work so early. When responding officers at the Amato residence, something about how the bodies of certain family members were discovered immediately raised red flags with the police detectives. To start, there were 2 pools of blood beneath Cody, one larger than the other. This suggested he had been moved post-mortem. There were also bullets placed strategically around the murder scene, corresponding to the number of times each victim had been shot. However, their positioning seemed unnatural, as if someone had staged them to fit a certain narrative. Furthermore, the angle at which Chad had been shot meant he should have been lying face down, but he was lying face up, suggesting someone had turned him over. Then there was the holster with the handgun in it, which was found on Chad's right hip. It was a cross-draw holster, meaning that Chad, who was right-handed, should have been wearing it on his left hip. But why would Chad be wearing a holster inside his home in the first place? Because whoever it was who moved him wanted it to look like there was a confrontation, that Chad managed to get a good look at the murderer before being struck down himself. Considering the gun discovered besides Cody's lifeless body, it becomes quite evident towards whom the crime scene was intended to direct suspicion. From the looks of it, considering whoever committed these murders obviously didn't do it for the money, as no valuables were taken, it seemed plausible that they may have been motivated by something else, some sort of personal grudge or resentment. The culprit clearly went to great lengths to make it seem as if Cody had been the one to do all of this, that he suddenly snapped and decided to murder his family before turning the gun on himself. And what would that person do should he find himself sitting in an interrogation room? He tried to spin the narrative in a way that would incriminate Cody.
I kind of
It's it's back there in the country.
So you and Cody meet.
Right.
And it's approximately what time? And I know I'm not holding you to the exact minute, but what time do you think you met?
10:30 or something like that.
How long did you talk to him for?
Only about 10 minutes or so.
And what was the conversation?
Conversation was basically that he was brought up to speed, you know, and that he would take care of it.
He was brought up to speed by what?
He was brought up to speed on like why I'm out here.
Who brought him up to speed?
My mom.
Oh, so she talked to him.
Yeah.
He told you that mom had talked to him.
Right.
Since the argument or when?
Since I had left.
So you'd left the house approximately when?
I left the house at like. God, when did I leave the house?
Dark.
It was dark. It was after 9 p.m. but I just don't remember.
So between 9 and approximately 10:30,
right.
You leave.
Right.
Go down to sit on for Christmas. Cody comes and talks to you about 10 minutes. At some point, your mom has spoken to Cody based on what the conversation you have with him, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And she told him what had happened between you and your dad.
Right.
Okay.
Do you think that's why Cody left work?
I mean,
Did Cody say to you why he left work?
No, he never said why he left work, but in my mind, I was just thinking, oh, he had been let off work early like three times already this week. So I was just like
10-15 minutes you talk to Cody.
Right.
What's he driving?
He drives a 97 Honda Accord.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a conversation, and he leaves to go home.
Right.
And you leave to go where?
And then I stay in that general area just so that if anything happens, somebody like knows where I am.
Okay. How long do you stay there?
I stayed there for, I mean, like a couple hours, I would say.
Just
that same area where you were talking about?
Like, I would go, like, kind of just up and down that road a little bit, just at my cars and just, like, sitting there. Mm-hmm. But for the most, yeah, I mean, I was staying in that general area, and then I decided to go
to Publix.
Grant just made a grave, but not too uncommon mistake. He locked himself into an easily disprovable story. By telling the detectives where he'd been and being generous enough to spill out time frames, he made the detectives' jobs much easier. Now, if they can just prove that he was somewhere else at those specific times, though, for example, witness statements, surveillance footage, or tracking digital footprints, then it would significantly bolster any case brought against him.
I had used Cody's card to pay for one of my bills that was outstanding. It was just one of those from that site. It was just like a bill that had backed up from there. $5.99.99.
He paid $600 for a cam girl session using Cody's card. Keep this little detail in mind, because the time and place in which this purchase was made will prove crucial later on.
So you have a reasonable belief in your mind that your dad could hurt you?
Yes.
He could hurt your mom?
Yes.
He could maybe hurt Jason?
Yes.
He's a violent guy. I'm sorry, I've been in this a long time. He sounds like a violent guy.
Yeah.
Quick to lose his temper with you over minuscule stuff?
Minuscule stuff, yeah.
I get the point he's upset about the amount of money. I do get that.
Right.
But physically, he's abusive.
Yes.
And it's kind of embarrassing as you're an adult male right now. He's been abusive of you for years, has he not?
Yeah. I mean, more mentally over the course.
But it has been to the point where you as a 29-year-old male, right, 29?
29.
That you're afraid that your father could kill you.
Yeah.
Anderson is attempting to manipulate Grant's emotions, fooling him into thinking he's got an ally in his corner. When used effectively, this tactic can get a suspect comfortable enough to lower their guard and feel safer talking, potentially revealing more information that could later be used against them in court. When not used effectively, it can come off as fake and even patronizing, further alienating the suspect and reinforcing their determination to stick to their story. We'll see by the end of this interrogation which way it goes.
At the house, I mean, I have like no access to anything. So I mean, it's literally just like me, and you know, I told you.
Access to anything? You mean what?
Like, you know, anything to defend myself. You know, like I
the guns in the
sold
house?
all my guns.
You sold it. Does Cody have guns in the house?
He does, but they're like locked up somewhere.
Dad have guns in the house?
Again, yeah, but they're locked up somewhere.
And you don't have access to them?
I don't even have a house key. I don't have a house key. I don't have any keys to the doors inside the house. All I had was my car key.
After getting Grant's version of events, the detectives now have a clear picture of what Grant claims went down. Now is the time to start poking holes in his story. But before they do that, they need to get one obvious detail out of the way.
Why do you think we're having this conversation?
I honestly don't know, but I'm pretty freaked out at this point because, you know, it's, I mean, I know, like, how the situation was when I left, and, you know, I thought that it was weird to begin with that I hadn't gotten any communication whatsoever. I mean, like I had told you, my brother, Cody, the last time when I was away from the house, that he was the one who outreached to me via email, because, again, I didn't have my phone or anything like that. I mean, I thought that it was weird, but I had just been kind of putting it out of my mind, thinking, okay, you had to go to work, or they were busy, or something.
When you were in your room, the hotel room, hanging out, watching TV?
No, I didn't turn on the TV. I had on just like music in the background, just to kind of help me go to sleep.
Are you sure about that? Because the hotel, it's weird, and I didn't know this. I used to travel a lot for work. They can tell, because of the TV, every channel you've been on when the TV gets turned off. Because I guess they have a problem. Yeah, I guess they have a problem with people stealing from that.
Oh, wow.
So those things are well monitored, even though that looks like a cheap.
Yeah. I never even touched the TV remote. I didn't turn on that TV at all. I was just using my service to, like, watch YouTube initially.
Anderson is about to severely overplay his hand here. He's going to try to get a confession, but he doesn't in a manner so obvious that Grant immediately sees through it.
Now's the time to come to Jesus, be honest, because you're holding something back. I can see it in your eyes. People don't believe that the police will help you, but we are actually here to help you with issues you may have. I think something happened, and you don't want to tell us, but right now is the time to get it off your chest. And I really wish you would, because it will make you feel better in the end.
I genuinely don't have anything else that I can say about the night or, you know, the period of time afterwards.
Anderson's approach here is not standard procedure, and for good reason. It's predictable, outdated, and only really has a chance of working against suspects who are emotional or on the verge of a breakdown, none of which apply to Grant. On the contrary, Grant remains calm and collected, showing no signs of anxiety or guilt. When he doesn't get the response he was hoping for, Anderson will begin fumbling with his own words, resorting to nonsensical analogies that portray a nervous demeanor, which only seems to bolster Grant's self-confidence.
You saw nothing that was out of the ordinary?
No.
In the Fort Christmas area or 419 area?
No, I mean...
Did you even get up to the Lake Mills Fort Christmas area where that guy's blinking lights are?
No. When I came back, I didn't come up to there.
There is, and you're better at electronics than I am. I'm gonna go ahead and admit that. There's a digital footprint, and there's ways to see things that we know that don't make sense. Even though your phone may not have service, there's still issues with the phone.
Right.
And it was on you the entire time when you left the house until you were in touch with law enforcement.
I can track places you've been, and I know where you have been, and I know what time you've been there. And everything you're telling me isn't just copacetic and doesn't add up. Because there's what I think, what you think, what she thinks, and then there's things that are hard facts that you can't manipulate.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think something happened at the house based on my knowledge right now, and you're afraid to say it. You're afraid to come back and say that I was a victim, I was hurt, I had something that happened there that I don't want you to tell because it's something maybe embarrassing or not good, but I know a lot more than I can let on right now. And things you're not telling me, I can't help you if you won't let me help you.
So where's the missing piece? What have we missed here?
I mean, when I had come back that other time, I crossed in front of the dude's fence, the red blinking lights ones.
What time was that?
I can't remember.
That was Friday during the day, when you said you were going to come back.
Right, yeah.
Okay. But it was after you did your interview.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you did that, you would have seen something, and there would be something out of the ordinary that you would have seen. If you passed that, you passed something out of the ordinary. What was it?
I saw, like, a news van, and then, I don't think there might have been, like, a cop car. There was, like, traffic being...
Human nature. What do people do when I go back to my old neighborhoods, and I've lived a couple places in Central Florida in the 23 years I've been here. I see something major going on, I get on my phone, or I get on my computer, I wonder what's happened by my neighborhood, and look.
Did that even spark your attention?
There's a digital footprint of where I went on my phone. This right here phone, they can tell me I looked at these maps on my phone because it's on there.
Right.
The memory's there. You can't delete it. You can't. You came back to the neighborhood. You saw some things that are really out of the ordinary.
Right.
And I don't believe for a second that you thought that I'm not going to look what's going on. What happened to my neighborhood?
I mean, I didn't search it up on anything, on any of the devices that I have.
Did you search it somewhere else?
At,
remember, like I said, I know things that you don't know. And honesty will get you all the things I could do for you, to be honest. I can't deal with someone who lies to me,
right.
but I'll deal with someone and help them till the end, no matter what, believe it or not. That's just me, and she'll tell you. It's what it is. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say if I can do something that can help you, I'm going to help you, because every one of us make mistakes and do things we shouldn't have done in the heat of the moment to protect ourselves or to protect somebody else.
This is an example of an effective interrogation tactic. Anderson presents a plausible narrative in which the suspect is absolved of any wrongdoing. If Grant takes the bait and backtracks on his previous statement, he's as good as done for.
I know better. Listen to me. I know better. I can help you, Grant, with honesty. I can help you with honesty.
We think something else happened before you left the home that you're either afraid of or embarrassed to talk about. But we need to know exactly what happened because, like Danny said, we can place you there at certain times. And so we need to know what happened before you left that house because you didn't leave with everything being okay.
I honestly, I don't have anything else that I can really say.
Detective Multari notices Anderson's attempts aren't working and interjects here and there with useful questions that propel the investigation forward. If it weren't for her, this interrogation may have completely derailed at this point.
This is the time to come to Jesus, to be honest, because you know more. I'm looking in your eyes. Your eyes tell me exactly that you are hurting inside. I get it. Brother, I get it.
Bringing up religion here only serves to waste valuable time. Keep in mind, they suspect Grant's responsible for killing 3 of his own family members, also he can be with a cam model he never met, so trying to exploit his sense of morality is unlikely to yield any results.
You gotta come to me with the truth now, because I already know the truth. Here's the chance you can shake your head no and say I don't know. You do know, and I know you know. She knows you know.
There's a reason you didn't go back to the house. There's a reason why you haven't tried to reach out. I mean, it's odd you haven't heard from anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's words that like I can't think of to even say. But I'm assuming that, you know, when you see that there is a shooting somewhere and it's around and it has to do with my family.
Your family has no known enemies. Nobody has a problem with them. Nobody.
Right.
Continue what you were saying. You said when you.
But I mean, that's like I don't know how to even say the words.
Well, give me a roundabout what you're thinking.
That somebody in my family's dead.
Now's the time, my friend. I want to help you. She wants to help you, and I'm telling you, I'm going to help you. Anything I can do within my power to be honest with you, I'm going to. That's it. But I got to have the truth from you. I can't get it from somebody else. I can't get it from her. I can't get it from other people I work with. It's got to come from you. I already know. I'm telling you, I already know. I got a couple more years. I'll retire. I'm going to take my career with me and be happy with what I've done because I've been honest with everybody. I'm asking you to be honest with me too. I want to help you.
I mean, apart from the times maybe being wrong, I genuinely don't have anything else that I can say about what transpired during the nighttime.
So when you left your house, everybody was fine.
Yeah.
And when you left Cody,
everything was fine.
She just strongly insinuated that she suspects Grant may have had something to do with the murders that took place. In situations like these, an innocent person would typically feel outraged or concerned by such accusations. But Grant doesn't even inquire about his family's well-being.
Well, we got called to the house because Cody didn't show up to work. So law enforcement goes over there, and can you tell us what we found? What do you think we found when law enforcement arrived at your home?
I mean, you guys are talking about guns, and you're talking about other things and then the website and everything, that something happened to him.
Partial answers, stuttering, breaking eye contact, long pauses, fidgeting, and trying to spread suspicion toward others are all common telltale signs that a person is lying. Grant is about to exhibit several of these behaviors as the interview progresses.
But you didn't tell Cody what your father said to you, correct?
Correct.
So when Cody made those comments to you, what do you believe he meant by that? Have you guys ever talked about?
That he was gonna, I thought he was just gonna do what he always does, which is where he just talks about it and he figures out whatever strategy he needs to.
So if anything happened in the home to bring law enforcement there, what would you think happened?
That there was a shooting.
Between whom?
I don't know. Between Cody and my dad.
And why would you think that?
To protect me, or to help me, or to do something with me.
So you're telling me you did not shoot Cody,
No.
your father, or your mother?
No.
This time, Multari directly and openly implicated Grant as the shooter without any pretense or hesitation. And again, Grant's reaction to this accusation was not one of deep offense, as most innocent people would exhibit, but rather a feeble no. While this could be interpreted as shock or disbelief, it's important to note that Grant has already been caught lying multiple times and has a clear motive for wanting his family dead in the eyes of both detectives, so none of them are buying it.
Well, when law enforcement arrived, that's what they found. So you're the only outstanding child. You're the one that's been having problems with your dad. You're the one that we haven't been able to find for 2 days. Do you understand now why we would be questioning you about this?
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't be saying I don't know the way to. I don't know what to even say.
Another common sign of lying is stuttering. It's obvious that Grant knows more than he's letting on, and his stammering gives it away. Notice how infrequently he makes direct eye contact with Multari, the one posing the question, only glancing at her every once in a while. When someone frequently breaks eye contact while answering a question, it can often indicate that they might be lying or hiding something. They may resume eye contact after answering, if only for a moment, just to see if the person questioning them is buying into their response.
Cody didn't shoot your dad. We know Cody didn't shoot your mom. We know Cody didn't shoot himself. There's something.
And you still haven't asked us the condition of them or anything.
That's because I don't know what the normal proceedings are, but
The normal proceedings are for you to be honest.
When Grant is finally informed about his family's fate, he shows no emotion. This is yet another red flag for the detectives. A sane person would be devastated upon learning that their loved ones have been brutally murdered. Yet, Grant remains stoic and emotionless, just like he's been told the weather forecast. An argument could be made for interpreting this as shock or disbelief, but considering the line of questioning that led up to this reveal, it seems more likely in the detective's eyes that he already knew what had happened and was simply putting on an act.
You gotta give me the chance to trust me. You have to. I already know. I know what happened. I know. 95% of the story, I know what happened. And so do you. And it's in your face, it's in your emotions, it's in your body language, that something is severely, from the minute I met you in the hotel, severely bothering you, and you knew why we were there the minute we came to see you. You knew why we were there. Sheriff can tell me every website I've ever been on this iPhone. Every one. And how long I was there for. Every meme I made up to send to somebody, something funny as a joke, they can see it. I'm here to help you, man. I'm here to help you get through all this. I am an honest guy. I'm going to be honest.
It is evident that Anderson's desire for a confession is causing him to become increasingly impatient with Grant's evasive behavior. But instead of changing up his strategy and toning down the good cop act, he doubles down on it in a manner that is discernibly insincere to just about anyone.
But something happened there that kicked us off unlike anything that ever happened in your life to get to where we are today. And I just need you to tell me exactly what happened.
While compelling a case could certainly be brought up against Grant solely based on evidence found at the scene, along with his deceptive behavior, it's always best to have a confession from the perpetrator, as this can make the prosecution's job much easier. What many people don't know is that when interrogations in cases like this reach an impasse, detectives are legally allowed to employ deception as a strategic tactic. This can include a wide range of psychological maneuvers aimed at extracting a confession. They might try to elicit guilt or minimize the severity of the crime, making the gravity of a confession seem less intimidating. They may lie about having evidence, pretending to have found fingerprints, DNA, or video footage. They might also claim to have eyewitness testimony or imply that coming clean now would result in some leniency when it comes to sentencing. For the rest of this interrogation, the detectives will use a mix of these tactics as their last-ditch effort.
I want to help you, man. I really do. But you've got to take that little step and trust that we are going to do everything that we can do. And be honest with you, we're going to do it. But I need you to step over. You have to, because what happens if you don't? You know, it's going to be something that we just can't do anything to deal with. We can't. Honestly, I've talked to people. I talked to a guy that was responsible for a lot of bad stuff in South America. And we sat down over a course of a month, and he finally admitted to some horrific things.
And felt a lot better about it, right?
Because he trusted us. Because he realized, the typical thing, the police, all they do is lie to you, or whatever. No, I'm not like that. I know she ain't either. I just want the truth. I want the truth to be told, no matter which way it is.
And you will feel so much better. Did you leave the house with your brother Cody looking like that? Or did you leave the house with your father looking like that? Or your mother? Is that how you left your family? If you were the one that's been depressed, you are the one that owes money, you are the one that got into a confrontation with your father, who did this to your family? If you were trying to defend yourself or something else happened, we need to know now.
Fact, I know. She never held a gun. She didn't have a gun that night. Fact, he never fired a gun. Fact, he never fired a gun. Never did. This is the person right here, Mom, who always stuck up for you. Something happened so bad that caused her death, your dad's death, and Cody. And I'll tell you just about how it happened. 1, 2, 3. Based on evidence. Based on evidence. I know he did not shoot your mom. I know he didn't shoot your dad. I know he didn't shoot himself. And I know from video surveillance camera in the neighborhood, nobody else came to that house. I know. I can account for everybody that went to the house. You got to tell me. Get over that hoop. The video, if you're sitting there saying no, and video shows something else, guess what? Big problem. Because it will wind up later on that you can't get any help from anybody.
I mean, there's just nothing else that I can say.
There's nothing else that happened in that home while you were there that would lead up to this?
No.
Your father didn't point a gun at you?
There was nothing else more than what I had said.
Then who do you think did this?
The only thing that I have is just the the times in which I had left the house. Yeah, there was still an argument when Cody had gotten home, and then there was nothing that he could do to help me. So I don't remember the exact time when I actually left, but I had left later than what I had said.
So you were home when Cody got home?
Yes.
The pressure exuded by the detectives finally proves too much for Grant to handle, and he admits to lying about his previous alibi. While it isn't exactly the confession they were looking for, they decide to use this new information as leverage to push for more.
Tell us about that. What time did he get home, and why did he come home?
According to what Grant said earlier, Cody had come home early from work to help remedy his brother's situation. This is, for all intents and purposes, a lie. The real reason for his early arrival is far more sinister and disturbing, and it's something that Grant is intentionally leaving out of his story for reasons we'll get into a bit.
I mean, he got home at, I think, like 10:30. I still think that's when he got home, was like at around 10:30. I don't know why he was able to leave early.
And what was going on at the house when he arrived?
My dad and my mom were arguing, and then I was still just packing up all my stuff, or gathering the things that I could gather. And then when Cody got home, he started to transgress with my dad, and I was still kind of just staying out of it and doing my own thing. And then the end result was still the end result, and then I had to still leave.
And then, so is it true that you still met Cody up the block, or was that?
No.
So you didn't meet him up the block? So why did you tell us that?
Originally, Grant claimed he left home at about 9:30 p.m. and met Cody outside the neighborhood to tell him what had happened. But now he's saying that he actually left closer to midnight and Cody was already home before he left. Overall, feeling the need to lie about such a seemingly minor detail is yet another obvious red flag.
All right, so then now let's start from the time you and your father started having the argument, about 6:30 you said when he got home?
Yeah.
Tell us exactly what happened from that time on, even what was said.
I mean, it was just a lot of yelling. I mean, it was everything that he had been telling me for the past months and months and months about just how I had ruined his retirement and how I had pushed him back, and now, he'd never be able to do the things that he wanted to do because I had saddled him with a lot more expenses, and that I had told him that, once I can get a job, then I have plans to make amends for the things that I had caused for everybody.
Mm-hmm. He's yelling.
Yeah.
He's heated. Are you yelling back at him?
No, I had never yelled at my dad.
You can easily recognize Grant's desperate attempts to be seen as the victim in this situation. Despite Chad's alleged violence and abusive behavior, Grant portrays himself as the acquiescent son who would never hurt, let alone raise his voice at his father, even when their confrontations got physical. This is an obvious attempt to paint himself in a more sympathetic light, which is intended to indirectly feed into his earlier narrative about Cody being somehow responsible.
So they're upset, I get that. But we know he didn't fire a gun. We know she didn't fire a gun. We know he didn't fire a gun. He shot the second he walks in the house.
At what point does he come into the house?
Keep in mind that forensic evidence showed that Cody was shot the minute he came into the house through the garage. So whatever Grant is about to say is in all likelihood false.
At what point does he come into the house?
It's like 10:30.
And where does he enter?
Through the garage.
Where does he park his car?
Under the the awning thing.
Outside, not in the garage?
Right.
So do you see him walk in? Or hear him come in?
No.
So you're upstairs maybe, or where are you when he comes home?
When he came home, I was gathering some of the like power bars into my little shoulder satchel thing.
And where are the power bars, in the kitchen, or?
In the kitchen.
So you see him come in?
I hear the door, but then that's it.
And then when do you see him physically?
I see him when he walks into the kitchen.
And what is said?
He asks me what I'm doing, and I basically tell him the quick, short story, because at the time my dad and my mom are talking.
Where were they?
They were in her office.
Okay, and what is the short story you tell
That
Cody?
That Dad caught me still talking to the girl that had caused all the problems, and that he was kicking me out of the house because I had broken his rule.
Did you tell Cody that he threatened to kill you if you came back home?
No, I still didn't tell Cody about that.
Considering we know for a fact that this conversation with Cody never happened, at least not at the time and place Grant claims it did, it seems out of character for someone who has no issue lying and would benefit greatly from implicating Cody to deny telling him about their father's threats. In truth, Grant just doesn't want to seem too desperate to throw Cody under the bus and would rather be seen as the harmless, mistreated brother who did everything he could to de-escalate, but his brother decided to act on his own.
So what else do you and Cody talk about?
So then after talking about that, he says that he'll take care of it, and then him and my dad, they're the ones that always yell and raise their voices and everything like that.
So did your dad eventually enter the kitchen, or did Cody go to your dad in the office?
No, my dad came in when he heard that me and Cody were talking.
And what was the conversation then?
When they started to talk, I just left the room, and I just went back upstairs.
So you didn't hear what they talked about?
I mean, not in any. It was more just that he was defending that it's just, that I just did this, and that it's not like it's costing any money.
Were they yelling? Did they raise their voice? Or they were talking?
They were yelling.
Did you hear any threats, or?
My dad had said that that everybody had agreed that if I had done this, that I would have to go. That there wasn't any more wiggle room or second chances or anything like that. And then, he came around to the base of the staircase, and then he told me that I need to go.
Your father did?
Yeah. And then I told him that I was just trying to pick up the last few things that I needed to. There was like a bag of a trash bag of like my clothes that I had still not unpacked from when I got back from Cornerstone, that I just, had to gather and put into my car, all that just random stuff. And then, I don't know what time I actually left, but I think it was closer to like midnight or something.
And when you left, where was your mother?
When I left, my mom was still just in her office.
And where was your dad?
Dad and Cody were just yelling inside the kitchen.
So when you left, you heard them yelling?
Not really yelling anymore, but it was basically just the same exact conversation that had been going on, where there was nothing left, and then Dad looked through some of my things to make sure that I wasn't taking anything that wasn't mine. I think the only thing that he had a problem with was that I had taken like some of my paperwork bills from like the Chapman Law Group, but then since I wasn't the one paying for it, that they would need those, but then I still just ended up keeping it because I figured nothing else was going to be covered for me or anything. So then after I left, I took the Fort Christmas Road that connected up with 50, and then I was just at the Publix for the rest of the time.
The same Publix we talked about earlier on 419. So from about midnight till 7 a.m., like you said, you were at Publix.
So to summarize, Grant's now saying that 1. Chad found out that he was still talking to Sylvie and kicked him out. 2. Cody arrived near midnight, just around the time he, Grant, was getting ready to leave. 3. Cody and Chad got into some sort of argument in the kitchen over Grant's situation. 4. Grant left his home, got in his car, and drove to the local Publix grocery store, where he stayed until his job interview the following morning. 5. Even though he had reason to suspect something terrible had happened in his neighborhood, Grant was unable to contact his family to see if they were okay, as his phone number had been disconnected. He also claims the fact that he could have just used the hotel's phone slipped his mind. We already know that points 2 and 3 are definitely not true, as it was established earlier that Cody was shot the minute he walked into the house. Therefore, he didn't exactly have enough time to chat with Grant or argue with his father. As for point number 5, it just sounds a lot more like a convenient excuse than anything else.
So I believe this, and this happened while you were still present in the house. And for whatever reason, you don't want to tell us. We understand your father was abusive, and we understand that he was the asshole. And if he threatened you, that he was going to kill you when you came back, you were probably in fear, were you not? So did your brother come home to try and defend you, and then this gunfight happened, and you got so scared that you left?
No, I mean, I had left when I had said that I had left.
Which time? Around 9 or midnight?
No, around the midnight time.
Again, we know stuff from the medical examiner office of times. Said this a couple of times. He never fired a gun. He never fired a gun. She never fired a gun. Nobody did. Nobody in the house fired a gun. Fact. We know.
I'm going to get DNA off the guns that are on scene and the cartridge casings.
And all
Any
that.
reason to believe that your fingerprints or your DNA will be on any of those weapons or the cartridge cases that are on the scene?
In over-reliance on buffer words and filler phrases such as like and I mean can be indicative of lying, as people often rely on them to stall for time while contemplating their next response. Additionally, when people are in the act of telling a lie, they have a tendency to conceal their palms from view, sometimes by clenching their hands together or placing them under the table. This unconscious behavior often signals a deliberate withholding of facts, emotions, or even the truth itself.
Let me throw something at you. We pulled financial records from your dad, you, Cody, and your mom. Remember that payment you made?
Notice how Grant's voice trembles as soon as Anderson mentions the payment he made.
The payment on that bill you had?
The $599.99.
I saw that one. Well, guess what got paid right about the same time?
What?
$33,000 of debt was paid off of his credit card. Same time. Within a very short time of each other. Those things go together. Records show what was happening.
Wait, what happened?
In a visibly anxious state, Grant asked Anderson to repeat what he just said, in an attempt to buy himself time to come up with a plausible explanation.
You're coming around, and I really appreciate it, Grant. I do appreciate it. Now you're starting to tell more of the truth. Everybody minimizes when they're in a stressful situation. They do. My boss can start yelling at me and try to minimize the effect of it, thinking about what am I going to do? How do I explain to him what happened legitimately? Not that I want to be a liar, but let me explain to him how legitimately something happened. How I bumped my fender on my car, got a ding in it. Try to think, well, how am I going to explain this?
And you've already told us a lie. This whole Matt thing is...
So when people start telling little fibs, they add up to big ones. And I told you, just tell the truth. I already know the truth. I know the truth. You can't convince somebody of something they already know the facts of. Walk outside today and you try to tell me it's night and I know it's noon. I know it's daytime, right? We both agree? Here's the time. Tell me what happened. Tell me what really happened in this very short time to get to where we are right here. I'm telling you 100 times. None of them fired a gun. None of them. A thing called gunshot residue. There's no gunshot residue on anybody's hands. Nobody fired a gun. You didn't shoot him, he didn't shoot him. Neither one of them shot them. I'm telling you, look at everything. He walked in the door, shot them, and he walked in the door. Because right down here is a bag he carries in. Dropped right there where he opened the door, walked in, and gets shot. There's Dad's lunchbox right there. Dad came home, was probably messing with it right around here. Arguments, whatever's going on, whether there was even an argument. Dad gets shot, and he drops right here. And most likely either got pulled or crawled over here. Over here. I wonder what DNA is going to be in that blood right there. What's going to be on your dad's pants? We got his pants. We take all their clothes, everything that we take. Your DNA going to be found on his pants?
No.
You sure? Maybe something, a question I'm asking, I already know the answer to.
I know, but my DNA shouldn't be on his pants.
Shouldn't? Okay.
The pressure is getting to him. Grant stammers and misplaces words, a common occurrence when someone is trying to fabricate a believable story under stress.
All your electronic footprint, we're going to look at it. We will look at it. We will see it. It's a whole lot easier for you just to say what happened than to have to come out here and say, here, boom, 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 because that may change the direction of this case severely. Of whether somebody says, here, let me tell you what happened, it got me here. This blew up. He's been threatening me. He's upset at me. I've ruined, his financial success and his plans for retirement with the house.
Cody tried to get involved, and you wanted to protect Cody. That makes sense. You and Cody are close.
I don't have the answer for anything else.
Okay. This is the last time before I'm going to walk out and then I'm done. Then I'm done for good. When I'm done, I'm done. They won't say, hey, can I come back and talk to you? The minute I walk out that door with your story is where you stay at. That's your lot in life. I'm more than willing to sit here all day and all night if you want to talk, to find the facts. But I can't. I told you from the beginning, I will not deal with somebody that's not being truthful with me. You're not being truthful. You're not telling me the truth. You've lied, and we've forgiven you over that. We've forgiven you over it. You can't lie about this, Grant. You can't. This is too important for your family of what has happened. There's not somebody out running around the United States that killed them. There's not. There's nobody out there, some hidden killer. There's not. You don't show the remorse that you should for someone who's lost 3 family members. Body language, eyes, and demeanor. Here's the time, man. I know it's tough. Tell the truth, because when I walk out, there is no another day.
And it's going to look worse for you when we prove it. By the DNA, the gunpowder, the blood spatter, fingerprints. Now is the time for you to be honest with us and is exactly what happened in that house before you left.
We'll be there for weeks gathering evidence. We are going to build the case because we're going to disprove the fact that nobody else came in this house. We already know that answer, but at some point we will build a case to the conclusion that nobody else went in.
I don't have anything else that I can say.
He's scared. His mind is racing, trying to come up with a way out of the situation. The text Anderson receives and silently shows to Multari only adds to Grant's anxiety and sense of panic. In a last-ditch effort to save himself, Grant tries to explain away his apathetic attitude through a sob story, followed up by one of the most pathetic attempts at gaining sympathy ever witnessed.
I just don't know what else to say.
Do you not feel bad for doing this to your family?
I don't know.
You don't know what? You don't know if you feel bad for doing this to your family?
I mean, I've been getting blamed for the last half a year for everything, and I've been trying to move forward into a positive direction. And then every day I'm reminded of all the trouble that I had caused. and then I keep being told the same thing over and over again, but there's nothing that I can do to change it.
Do you regret doing this to each one of your family members?
I didn't do that to each one of them.
Who did?
I don't
Who has such an axe to grind with your family that they shot him twice in the head, him in the head, and her? Who has it? Here, you sit in my seat for a minute. Sit in my seat. Get out of it. Here, sit right here. Come here. Sit right here. Get out of that seat. Sit right there for me. Sit on it. Look at it. Look at it from our side.
The fact that Grant complies with this request without saying a word tells you all you need to know about his mental state at this point.
Think of it from the way we look at it. Independent. What are we here for? One thing. The blindfolded ladies with justice. Justice is all we're here for. Justice. Look at it. Who has a motive? Who has a motive to hurt your family? You could say Jason, but we already know what Jason was. I can account for every bit of Jason's activity. Every bit of it. Jason gave a statement. What's the first thing we looked at? Is Jason telling the truth? Can we verify what he told us? And in quick succession, we did. He said I was XXXXS. And he went, yep, he sure was.
And we know exactly when Cody left work.
And know when Cody got home. And know when Cody stopped answering his phone. And know when bills were paid. And knows when vehicles left. And know when phones tagged hotspots. Know it all. Know every bit of it. Now it's time for you to admit to what you know. Because you're saying, I didn't do something, I don't know something. It's an easy thing to say to yourself, but you can't say it to us. Because facts and evidence don't lie. I've done everything I can do to get to the bottom and the truth. And we're not getting there. But I promise you down at some point, the facts will get there. And then you're going to ask, hey, can I talk to you and tell you what happened? And the answer is no. After we walk out of the room, like I said, it's done. There is not a second chance. There's one time to make a first impression. You heard that one before? This is it. I believe you're not a bad guy. I do. I believe you want to tell us what happened. And there's a reason this got so bad. There's a reason. That's all I'll say.
I don't have anything else that I can say.
So what they accused you of, you didn't do?
The grand theft thing?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Two things that happened here today. Two things. You're a guy swimming out in the middle of the ocean, and we're going to give you one of two things based on you. You can have a life preserver to keep from drowning, or you get the boat anchor.
This analogy by Detective Anderson is far from accurate, as no matter what Grant chooses, he's not getting out of this situation unscathed.
I want the life preserver that I've said everything that I can.
You want it, and I believe you do, but you have not said everything you can say. Be careful of locking yourself into something, because just like this, you've locked yourself into, I was down on Fort Christmas. That's where me and Cody met, which we've proven to be a lie. We already knew that. We already knew that wasn't true. But I'm going to let you say it. I'm going to let you say what you want to about being honest in here. And at some point, we will pick that apart of why you're not honest and what physical evidence shows to be. What physical evidence shows to be. you want to be honest, this is it. This is the time right now to be honest. You see if I can say what you're saying what you want to say to me right now. Just like you wanted me to believe that you were down on 4 Christmas down the road with Cody. That you wanted to. That's what you wanted me to believe. And there's a reason you were being deceptive to me. Because it doesn't matter where you met him and had this conversation. If you lie about something small, you lie about something big. You're being deceptive. Over something that doesn't matter if you met him down the road or not. There's no reason to lie about where you met him at. This is it. Your one chance in the rest of your life to be honest about this right here. You say, I've told you what I can tell you. You told me what you want me to know. Just like you told me what you wanted me to know about that. And for Eva to know what you want to know about that. But it's not true. Just like you want to tell me what you want me to know about this. I get this. I get that. I don't get that. I don't get that. I don't get it. I don't. One, I get. I understand. She didn't bully you. She didn't belittle you. She didn't run you into the ground. Nor did he. I don't get it. But this is it. Because you're just about, I've kind of got a number in my mind that I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk out and we'll take our stuff and be on our way and you're going to go the way you go. But there will be a time where you ask for that life preserver. I can't give it to you. I can't. Once I cross a line I got to step over, can't do it. Won't do it. Think about that. I want to talk to her for a minute. Think about the last life preserver I can give you. Think about it. Take a few minutes just to reflect on it, and then we'll come back to you in a couple of minutes, and then we'll go from there. And what happens is what happens. Fair enough?
The interrogation has officially hit a dead end. But before wrapping things up, there's someone else who wants to have a word with Grant, his older half-brother, Jason.
I have a feeling the FBI is already involved because no matter how much Dad can overcome the money laundering, that's money that was moved. Just because they gave it to you as a gift, you can't just claim gifts as income. The FBI wants to know what the is money being moved in that amount. I'm sorry. I don't believe you. And I probably will have the rest of my life, whether you did it or you didn't do it, but I need closure. I need to know what happened to my mother, my father, and my brother Cody. Because I wasn't there to fucking help. And that hurts me. That hurts me a lot, man. I may not have been able to stop you. You probably may have hurt me too. But at least I would have known what happened. And now I'm in fucking who knows what now. I am lost. And it scares me that you want to leave here and not face what happened. Because you're putting my life at risk then. You're putting Donna's life at risk, Grandma's life. How do we know what you're going to do? What happened on the job interview last Friday?
It all sounded good. It sounded like everything was moving forward. And then I was supposed to hear something on Tuesday or Thursday of this coming week.
And? Nothing?
It was just on Friday.
It was last Friday, so it's been a little over a week.
No, it was just this Friday.
That's not possible. Friday was yesterday.
Yeah.
So you're telling me you had a job interview yesterday, but you got kicked out Thursday night?
Right. I had to get my suit and everything and put it into the car.
Okay. Where was your job interview?
It was over on Lee Vista with something scripts.
So they'd be able to verify that you were there for an interview.
It is important to note that Jason Amato had a solid alibi for January 24th. He was interviewed earlier by detectives as part of the investigation on January 25th, when they visited him at his workplace in Winter Springs, Florida. During his interview, Jason provided a detailed account of his whereabouts on January 24th. He had spent the entire day at work, returned home at 6 p.m., and then went out to dinner with his long-term girlfriend and her 2 daughters. He spent the entire evening in their company and dropped the girls off at school the next morning. His girlfriend corroborated everything he stated. They also went through his car and home and found no indication of his involvement. He was therefore not taken into consideration as a suspect. Since there wasn't a confession, the police had no choice but to let Grant go until more evidence could be gathered. He wasn't out for very long. He was apprehended several hours later and formally accused of 3 counts of premeditated first-degree murder, to which he pled not guilty. During the period leading up to his trial, Grant was placed at the Seminole County Jail with a bail amount set at $750,000. Due to being prohibited from accessing funds from his parents' estate, Grant was unable to make bail. Grant Amato's trial began on July 23, 2019. If convicted, he would face the death penalty. According to previous evidence, the prosecution pointed out that there was absolutely no indication of forced entry into the Amato residence, and all of the family's valuable belongings weren't stolen. The timeline of events, according to the prosecution, went as follows. Grant spent January 24th at home with his mother, Margaret. Evidence showed that the last activity on her computer was recorded at 4:44 p.m. Based on this information, the prosecution concluded that Grant shot Margaret around 4:45 p.m. while she was seated at her desk. At 5:25 p.m., Chad Amato's iPhone health app recorded 67 steps as he presumably walked from his car into the house. Following this, there was a period of 27 minutes with no activity detected on his phone. The absence of activity during this time led the prosecution to conclude that Grant killed his father immediately upon entering the house. Although the first shot Chad received did not prove fatal, there was evidence of a blood trail on the floor, indicating an attempt to crawl, likely towards a phone, after being shot. Chad was then shot a second time, resulting in his death. At 5:52 p.m., Chad's iPhone was unlocked. It stayed that way until past midnight. Grant, pretending to be his father, sent a text message to Cody to lure him home. Cody left work around 9:15 p.m. Meanwhile, his parents' lifeless bodies still in the house for 4 hours at this point, Grant was waiting patiently for Cody to arrive. When Cody finally made it inside, Grant shot him without hesitation. Then, at 11:32 p.m., a thumb drive with over 600 plus photos and videos of Sylvie was inserted into Grant Amato's computer. Investigators later found this same thumb drive in Grant's car, tucked in the pocket of his jeans. At 11:39 p.m., Cody's iPhone was connected to Grant's computer, but the trusting process wasn't completed, suggesting the person who connected the phone didn't know the password. 3 minutes later, the phone entered recovery mode. It's believed Grant was trying to reset it to factory settings in order to erase any evidence. At 12:08 a.m., Chad Amato's USAA banking app was accessed using his fingerprint. Investigators noted that Chad's right index finger appeared less bloody compared to his other fingers, suggesting it had been wiped clean. This led prosecutors to believe that Grant had utilized his dead father's fingerprint to gain access to his bank account. At precisely 2:54 a.m., Grant accessed Wi-Fi. Just 12 minutes later, at 3:06 a.m., he made a payment of $599.99 to reactivate his Cam Girls account. He then proceeded to orchestrate a staged murder-suicide scenario, intending to fabricate a crime scene in which Cody fatally shot his parents before turning the gun on himself. This would explain the handgun that was found near Cody's body. Grant placed bullets throughout the crime scene, aligning with the number of gunshot wounds inflicted upon each victim. However, the prosecuting attorney hypothesized that Grant, in a lapse of memory regarding his father's right-handedness, erroneously placed the holster with the firearm on Chad's right hip in his efforts to make it appear as though there was a confrontation between Chad and Cody. He then moved both Cody and Chad's bodies, positioning them in a manner that would suggest a possible altercation between the two had gone down. It's no secret that Grant made several glaring errors overall, but perhaps his most astounding blunder is this. According to Richard Ruth, an expert in firearms from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, none of the 3 guns found at the Amato residence were used in the murders. Ruth also mentioned that the bullets discovered near the bodies that Grant had planted did not originate from the firearm used in the murders. So where did the gun that Grant used come from? Blake Turnpin, a close friend of Cody and Grant for over 10 years, testified that his 9mm handgun had been stolen from his bedroom. He only realized it was missing several months later, though, as he seldom used it. Once he discovered it was gone, Turpin said he reported it to the police. Around 2 weeks prior to the murders, Turpin recalled that he had invited Grant, Cody, and another friend to his house for some casual hangout and video game sessions. During the course of the evening, Grant knew where Turpin kept his firearms and had briefly excused himself to use the bathroom. He would have needed to pass by Turpin's bedroom to reach the bathroom. During his testimony, Richard Root stated that the stolen handgun belonging to Turpin had distinctive polygonal rifling, which is important to take note of because the bullets used in the 3 murders had polygonal markings. Unfortunately, due to the fact that Turpin's firearm was never retrieved, it was impossible to definitively establish a direct link between his gun and the murders. Another thing to point out is that, according to the medical examiner, Cody Amato was not shot at close range, which meant he couldn't have taken his own life. The medical examiner also strongly indicated that the evidence at the scene pointed towards all 3 deaths being the result of homicide. As for the motive, the prosecution portrayed Grant as someone who had plunged into a state of despair and depression after getting fired from his job. He met Sylvia Vinsloslavova, the aforementioned webcam model, shortly afterward, and soon developed an unhealthy fixation on her. Sylvie had no idea who Grant really was, buying into his facade of being a rich professional gamer. But after Chad managed to get in contact with Sylvie and told her who his son really was, Grant became enraged. He began to develop strong feelings of resentment towards his family for effectively ending his relationship. When his father finally decided to kick him out, that was the final straw. The prosecution also made note of a letter Grant had written to his online friends, 6 men with whom he frequently engaged in chat room conversations, all part of Sylvie's online community. In the letter, composed sometime between Grant's departure from rehab on January 4, 2019, and the murders on January 24, 2019, Grant admitted that everything he had previously shared about his life was a fabrication. He actually lived with his parents, was not a professional gamer, was unemployed, and did not own a BMW. He also conveyed his frustration towards his family for various reasons. He was displeased that they had insisted on him attending rehab and was furious that they had told the truth about him to Sylvie. He described his father as being controlling and abusive, his mother as simply being around, and his brother as controlling and doesn't understand how much he cared for Sylvie. With tears in his eyes, Grant's older brother Jason took to the stand and talked about the ultimatum that Chad had imposed on Grant, along with the extensive list of rules that Grant was required to abide by if he wanted to stay in the family home. When asked about his father, Jason clarified that although Chad could certainly come off as strict sometimes, he was never abusive towards him or his brothers, And while they did receive mild spankings during their childhood, it was never out of anger or malice. In defense of Grant, his team argued that the detectives hastily focused their investigation solely on him, neglecting to seriously consider other potential suspects. They further contended that the investigators should have conducted a more thorough examination of the evidence. The defense also challenged the prosecution's timeline of events, claiming it to be inconsistent. They argued that the prosecution was merely speculating about the time each family member was murdered. They also tried to argue that evidence showed Chad had accessed his bank account on January 24th at around 12:05 p.m., which wouldn't make much sense because according to the prosecution's claims, Chad would have been dead by then. This argument quickly falls apart, however, when you consider that the prosecution had already presented a compelling argument that Chad was not the one who drew funds from his bank account, and that it was most likely Grant using his dead father's fingerprint to unlock his phone. Their final argument was that Grant didn't have enough motive for wanting his family gone, that he had got along reasonably well with his mother, and that he and Cody were extremely close. After all, why would he resort to murdering his family when they were already more than willing to just hand him money whenever he asked for it? In the end, however, none of this was enough to sway the jury. On July 31st, 2019, Grant Amato was found guilty of premeditated first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, narrowly escaping the death penalty. Before his conviction, he wrote a letter to journalists expressing his desire to sell the exclusive rights to his story in return for financial assistance. He hoped that a generous benefactor, a millionaire perhaps, would step forward and pay for his bond. "I just want to feel the sun again, feel the breeze on my skin, feel the simple pleasures every innocent man feels." He also wrote how he'll never forget the family that was taken from him and the brother he loved more than anything in this world. Grant still insists he's innocent to this day. He is serving his sentence in Florida at the Okeechobee Correctional Institution.
It's not so much the verdict that came back. It's just, coming to terms with, the time that I'm going to have to wait.
I remain flabbergasted that you're so calm about it. It's really impressive to me.
I think it's just because I don't really know anything about it. I don't have a history of going to prison before. You're surrounded by a lot of, people that are doing, either a lifetime of crimes and they're terrible people, or they're people in my situation who are innocent and they're just trying to get through it as fast as they can.